Emily Vargas was pregnant, fainted outside the gates of a billionaire's wedding, and the ring on her finger wasn't just a symbol of love. It was a secret powerful enough to stop the entire ceremony in its tracks. Jason Caldwell thought his carefully crafted life was untouchable, until the past came crashing back in the most shocking way imaginable. What really happened behind the glittering facade of wealth, betrayal, and broken promises? The day was clear and bright, the kind of perfect spring afternoon that seemed made for celebrations. The sun shone warmly over the sprawling vineyards of Napa Valley, where the estate of billionaire tech mogul Jason Caldwell sat like a jewel among the rows of grapevines. The mansion was magnificent, a mix of modern glass and stone, surrounded by immaculately trimmed gardens and fountains that shimmered in the sunlight. It was the ideal setting for a wedding meant to dazzle the world. Inside the estate, everything was buzzing with excitement and meticulous preparation. Staff scurried through the halls, adjusting floral arrangements and polishing the grand chandelier that hung over the marble floor. The air smelled of fresh roses and expensive perfumes, mingling with the soft melodies of a string quartet playing in the background. Guests arrived in luxury cars, stepping out onto the red carpet and greeting each other with polite smiles and whispered compliments. Among them were some of the most influential people in the country, celebrities, CEOs, and socialites, all gathered for what promised to be a wedding for the ages. Jason Caldwell was a man used to the spotlight. At 38, he was considered one of the most successful entrepreneurs of his generation. His tech empire had made him a billionaire many times over, and his sharp mind and relentless drive had earned him respect in the business world. But today was not about business. Today was supposed to be about love, the union between him and Chloe Durant, a glamorous influencer and fashion icon known worldwide. Their relationship had been the subject of endless speculation and media coverage, and this wedding was the grand finale everyone had been waiting for. The ceremony was set in the estate's courtyard, framed by rows of white chairs filled with elegantly dressed guests. White ribbons fluttered in the gentle breeze, and a lush archway of flowers marked the aisle down which Chloe would soon walk. Cameras were positioned discreetly, ready to capture every moment for the live stream that would broadcast the event to millions around the world. Everything was arranged with perfect precision. As the ceremony was about to begin, guests turned their attention to the entrance at the far end of the courtyard. Chloe was moments away from walking down the aisle, and the anticipation was palpable. The photographer whispered to the director that the bride was ready, and a hush fell over the crowd. A murmur of admiration rippled through as Chloe appeared, radiant in a custom-made white gown that shimmered softly in the sunlight. Her smile was bright, her eyes sparkling with emotion. Then, just as the first notes of the wedding march began to play, a sudden commotion broke the calm. At the entrance gates, a young woman appeared, staggering forward and then collapsing onto the stone pathway. The crowd gasped in shock. The security team immediately moved to her side, but the panic in the air was unmistakable. Some guests craned their necks to see what was happening, while others whispered nervously among themselves. The woman was visibly pregnant, her swollen belly unmistakable beneath a loose blouse. She lay still on the cold stone, her breathing shallow. Several people rushed forward with bottled water and medical supplies, but it was clear she had fainted. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. The perfect celebration was suddenly overshadowed by confusion and concern. What made the scene even more unusual was the glint of a ring on her finger, flashing in the sunlight as her hand rested on the ground. It was no ordinary ring. It was a large diamond, set in a delicate platinum band, sparkling with unmistakable brilliance. A few guests who had seen the ring closely gasped, their eyes wide with disbelief. It was identical to the one Chloe was about to wear as a symbol of her marriage to Jason Caldwell. The music stopped. The string quartet fell silent. Jason, standing at the altar, turned sharply toward the entrance, his expression unreadable. The wedding planner whispered hurried instructions to the security team, who gently lifted the woman and carried her away from the gates. Cameras captured every moment, and within minutes, the live broadcast showed the unexpected interruption, spreading across social media like wildfire. Rumors began swirling immediately. Who was the woman? Why had she come to the wedding? Was she trying to disrupt the ceremony on purpose? Theories flew in every direction. Some speculated it was a publicity stunt. Others suspected a desperate plea for attention. The mystery only deepened when Jason's face, previously calm and composed, now showed a flicker of something else. Surprise, maybe even fear. Medical. Personnel arrived quickly and confirmed that the woman was being taken to the nearest hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, the guests were ushered back inside the mansion, and the ceremony was paused indefinitely. Chloe stood at the altar, her stunning gown trailing behind her, eyes fixed on the gates where the woman had collapsed. Her usually radiant smile was gone, replaced by a tight, almost imperceptible frown. Security tightened their grip on the estate's perimeter. No one was allowed to leave or enter without clearance. Phones lit up with messages and calls as news outlets scrambled to gather information. Social media exploded with posts, pictures, and videos from guests and onlookers alike. The story was trending worldwide within minutes. A pregnant woman fainted at the gates of a billionaire's wedding, and the diamond ring on her finger had stopped the ceremony. Inside, Jason's team scrambled to manage the crisis. Public relations experts crafted statements, lawyers prepared for possible fallout, and the billionaire himself retreated to a private room to deal with the unexpected storm. The wedding that had been carefully planned for months was now unraveling in front of thousands of eyes. The woman's identity was unknown at first, but as investigators began their work, a name surfaced: Emily Vargas. She was young, 27 years old, and little was known about her connection to Jason Caldwell. No official ties, no public appearances. Yet the ring on her finger suggested a much deeper story, one that nobody could have predicted. The sun set over the vineyards. The estate was quiet, but the tension was electric. The perfect wedding day had become a mystery filled with secrets and unanswered questions. Who was Emily Vargas? What was her connection to Jason Caldwell? And how had her presence, faint and fragile at the gates, changed everything? The answers would unfold in the days to come. But for now, the world watched, waiting for the truth behind the woman who had stopped a billionaire's wedding with a ring on her finger. The next morning, the calm that usually follows a night of high society celebrations was replaced by a heavy cloud of confusion and suspicion. The sprawling estate was now crawling with police officers, private security, and journalists, all eager to piece together what had happened. Word about the pregnant woman fainting outside the wedding gates spread like wildfire, and people were desperate to understand who she was and why she had appeared at such a pivotal moment. Medical staff at the nearby hospital worked quickly to stabilize the young woman. Her condition was fragile but stable. She had fainted from exhaustion and stress, compounded by her pregnancy. Though the immediate danger had passed, many questions lingered. Who was she? Why did she have a diamond ring identical to the one Jason Caldwell was supposed to give his bride? And how was she connected to the billionaire? Detectives assigned to the case began their investigation with basic background checks and interviews. The woman's identity was confirmed as Emily Vargas, a name that didn't mean much to the public or even to Jason Caldwell's known circles. She had no public social media presence, no known family nearby, and no obvious connection to the billionaire's world of luxury and influence. This only deepened the mystery. But the situation grew stranger when a nurse at the hospital recognized Emily. She had seen her weeks earlier during a prenatal appointment. That alone wasn't unusual, except this nurse added an important detail. Emily had not only come in for routine care, but had also asked about accessing confidential medical records. Specifically, she had inquired about Jason Caldwell's health information. This revelation raised eyebrows. Why would a seemingly random pregnant woman want access to Jason's personal medical records? Was she involved with him somehow? The question forced investigators to dig deeper as they reviewed records and cross-checked employment histories. They uncovered a startling detail. Emily Vargas was not just any woman. 2 years prior, she had worked for one of Jason Caldwell's companies, but under a different name. Records showed that Emily had been registered as Rachel Moore, a software developer employed under contract for a brief but intense period. This discovery led detectives to revisit company files and internal communications from those years. There, hidden among emails and messages, were signs of a complicated and secretive relationship. It became clear that Emily, or Rachel as she was then known, had been much more than an employee. She had worked closely with Jason Caldwell, not only on projects but seemingly on a personal level as well. Private messages revealed flirtations and late-night calls. Surveillance footage from the company showed the two meeting outside the office after hours, sometimes sharing long, private conversations in quiet corners. Co-workers noticed the closeness, but assumed it was professional. They had no idea the depth of the relationship. Then, suddenly, Emily had disappeared. Her contract ended abruptly, and she left without explanation. Her online profiles vanished, and she seemed to have erased any trace of herself. At the time, Jason announced an engagement to Chloe Durant, the fashion icon, with public celebrations and lavish parties. The timeline was suspiciously close. The investigators suspected that Emily's sudden appearance at the wedding was no accident. It was a carefully planned act fueled by desperation and heartbreak. The diamond ring on her finger, identical to the one Jason was about to give Chloe, was a chilling symbol. It hinted at a proposal long hidden from the public eye, one that had been replaced, erased, and buried beneath Jason's rise to new fame and fortune. Detectives interviewed Emily's neighbors and former colleagues. They learned she had moved frequently over the last 2 years, changing addresses and jobs to avoid being found. No one knew much about her personal life, except that she was secretive and withdrawn. Her closest confidant was her younger sister, who revealed that Emily had confided painful stories about Jason. Promises made and broken, love given and taken away. The sister shared a glimpse into Emily's world that only added to the tension. Emily had spoken of a relationship that began with hope and trust, but ended with betrayal. She had believed Jason would marry her, protect her, and their unborn child. Instead, she felt discarded once Chloe entered the picture. Meanwhile, the media frenzy surrounding the wedding's collapse grew. News outlets reported on every detail, or speculation, and public opinion began to divide. Fans of Chloe expressed sympathy, but also curiosity. while some questioned Jason's character. Was he a man capable of hiding a secret life? Could the image of the perfect billionaire be a carefully crafted illusion? The story's complexity deepened when the hospital released a statement confirming Emily's pregnancy and stable condition, but refused to provide further information due to privacy laws. This silence only fueled rumors and intrigue. Within Jason Caldwell's inner circle, the atmosphere was tense. Advisors urged damage control. Public relations teams worked overtime to contain the fallout, crafting carefully worded statements and promising cooperation with investigations. Jason himself remained mostly silent, appearing only briefly in a televised interview to deny any wrongdoing, but refusing to answer detailed questions. But as the public watched and waited, a few pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. Emily's presence at the wedding, her sudden collapse, and the ring on her finger were no random acts. They were a cry for recognition, an attempt to reclaim a story that Jason Caldwell had rewritten without her. The investigation revealed that Emily had endured months of emotional turmoil. She had tried to reach out to Jason repeatedly after learning she was pregnant, only to be ignored or shut down. The ring she wore was a gift he had given during a private moment, a promise of commitment that was never fulfilled. It had never been seen in public, kept secret as Jason prepared for a new chapter with Chloe. Her fainting was not just a physical reaction, but a symbol of the weight she carried: heartbreak, betrayal, and the crushing fear of being erased from a life she believed was theirs. In the days that followed, the estate where the wedding was to take place remained eerily quiet. Chloe Durant withdrew from public view. Jason's team scrambled to manage the crisis. Emily, still hospitalized, was visited only by her sister and a small team of legal advisors preparing to take action. The scandal was no longer just a wedding. Disruption. It was becoming a full-blown battle, one that would uncover hidden truths about love, power, and the lengths some would go to protect their carefully constructed images. The question remained, what would happen next? Would Emily's story be silenced, or would it unravel the perfect life Jason Caldwell had built? As investigators continued to dig deeper, the world waited for answers that would soon reveal far more than anyone could have imagined. Jason Caldwell's carefully polished image began to crack as the story of Emily Vargas spread. Up until now, he had been known as a visionary entrepreneur, the young billionaire who transformed the tech industry with his innovative ideas and charismatic leadership. His engagement to Chloe Durant had only added to his allure, combining power with glamour in a way that seemed almost untouchable. But beneath the glossy surface, secrets were starting to emerge, threatening to undo everything he had built. As reporters dug into his past, unsettling details surfaced about Jason's life before the wedding. Court records revealed that 2 years earlier he had quietly settled a lawsuit filed by a former assistant named Rachel Moore. The lawsuit accused him of harassment and emotional abuse, but the details had been sealed under a non-disclosure agreement. The name Rachel Moore was familiar to the investigators. It was the alias Emily Vargas had used during her time at Jason's company. The connection was undeniable. Rachel Moore and Emily Vargas were one and the same. The woman fainting outside the wedding gates was not just a random bystander, but someone deeply entangled in Jason Caldwell's past. The lawsuit had been a secret kept tightly under wraps, with Jason's legal team managing the fallout swiftly and quietly. The accusations painted a very different picture from the public persona he had cultivated. It wasn't just a case of workplace misconduct. It hinted at a manipulative and controlling relationship that extended beyond professional boundaries. The discovery sent shockwaves through the media and Jason's social circle. How could someone so successful and admired have such a dark past? What else was hidden beneath the surface of his polished public image? Further investigation unearthed private emails and messages between Jason and Emily from those years. They revealed a complex relationship that was more than just employer and employee. The tone of the messages changed from professional to intimate, with Jason expressing affection and promises of a future together. Emily, under the name Rachel, seemed to believe in those promises, hoping for a stable life with the man she admired. But the correspondence took a darker turn. Messages became sporadic, filled with frustration and sorrow as Jason's responses grew cold and distant. There were moments where he asked her to keep their relationship secret, warning her about the risks to his reputation. At other times he dismissed her concerns, telling her to focus on her work and avoid complications.